This video is brought to you by Channel Grim and Grin's own Screams from the Crypt. 20 tales of horror, sci-fi, and suspense. Available now.
Hello, I'm Grimgrindle, and welcome back to Build Request. This request comes from Ryan Fulton, Numb Feelings, Darth Cajun, Delirious Kid 48, who have all requested a Batmobile, and Nathan Pitoniak, who has requested rather specifically the Michael Keaton Batmobile, which is the one from 1989 and 1992, I think. Which will be, by the way, the third Batman vehicle I've made, as I've also made the Batman 89 Batwing and the Tumbler from the Dark Knight trilogy. But that really is no matter, as after all the three vehicles look rather different, and as a pretty big Batman fan, I really don't mind making more Batman. This Batmobile, the Keaton one, wasn't necessarily more difficult or easier to build than the Tumbler, but it did present different issues, as they're definitely very different vehicles aesthetically. The Tumbler is kind of squat and has a lot of details to it which was hard to do in the medium, whereas the Keaton Batmobile is rather long, rather narrow, and rather low to the ground, which is really difficult to convey within the size limit of the garage, and especially difficult to do when it comes to the low to the ground part when you're using monster truck wheels. And you can't simply not use monster truck wheels, as the regular size wheels are just too small and silly looking when you're building a realistic looking vehicle. And so going with monster truck wheels as I decided to, I at first tried really hard to have them all standing up properly like they're supposed to be used so they would function properly in the game. This absolutely did not work because of course it has to be low to the ground and monster truck wheels stand up real high, but in all fairness I didn't expect it to actually work anyway, I was just hopeful, and so after it failed I quickly moved on. What I ended up going with is having the back wheels stand up as they should, and then having the front wheels laying down, and of course being non-functional, which once I did, I didn't really bother experimenting with the functionality of it, as it's the exact same method I used when I built the Batman Tumbler. That is to say that since I had gotten it to work before, I could feel rest assured that when it came to making the vehicle functional I could easily do it, and so now could start focusing on the aesthetics. The wheels as they are is already a pretty good start for the aesthetics, as the different elevations that they force kind of make the vehicle have a bit of a wedge shape, and so therefore makes the vehicle look a bit sporty. And then from that point, the basic size and shape of the vehicle was already pretty much locked down and quite easy to do. However, the finer details, the small aesthetic pieces of it, the things that make the vehicle look like the vehicle, was certainly not easy to do, and it did take a pretty long time. If you're into the grim builds of these vehicles that come out a week after the build requests do, then you're going to like this one. I think it's probably about 50 minutes. And most of that time was spent doing very, very minor adjustments to the aesthetic look of the vehicle, especially to the bonnet, which just was quite hard to get looking right, because on the actual Batmobile that I'm trying to replicate, the bonnet is rather flat, but when it comes to building it in Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, the hitbox of the monster wheels is so large that it was really difficult to get it to look like it was properly aerodynamic and properly flat. Though that said, I can't say that this time spent doing minor adjustments was poorly spent, as the final result is really quite good and may well be one of my best looking vehicles and certainly one of my favourites. And so now with it looking good, all that was left for me to do is the functionality which earlier I had put off. And to do that, all I did was to hide two non-monster truck wheels, one at the front and one at the back, and hey presto. It's actually kind of funny because this vehicle is extremely maneuverable, because with those two wheels being what is the actual functionality of the vehicle, it's technically more of a motorcycle than a car, which is kind of ironic because the Banjo bike I did last week was more of a car than a motorcycle, but this one is more of a motorcycle than a car, and so it turns way better than it really has any business to. It's also rather fast, and being as fast and maneuverable as it is, it could definitely take my Tumbler in a race, though if you are actually racing it in the game, fairly warned, it sometimes does unexpectedly blow off its front wheels, because as we know, the game really doesn't like it when you lay them down like that. And so there you have it, Michael Keaton's Batmobile in Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. As always, if you would like it in your own save, what's going to follow now is the layer by layer of it, so feel free to copy it over. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, a link to my Twitter and a link to the Channel Grim and Grin Discord is in the description below. And as always, until next time, I have been and still am Grim Grindle.
Oh, come. Screams from the Crypt, as heard by Darkwell Bled. 20 tales of horror, sci-fi, and suspense. Available now.